You know that feeling when you are cleaning out a closet or maybe moving to a new apartment and you find that one specific
Oh
box?
yeah, everyone has that box.
Right. It's heavy, it's heavily taped up, and when you finally pry it open, it is just a tangled bird's nest of outdated technology.
The dreaded tech graveyard.
Exactly. Just old charging cables, maybe like a clunky digital camera from 2008, a cracked smartphone, an old GPS unit.
And looking at it always brings up this very specific, kind of uncomfortable emotion.
Yeah, it does. There is some nostalgia, sure, but mostly there's this profound sense of wasted value.
Hmm.
You look at that digital camera and remember spending, $400 on it. You remember carrying that specific proprietary charger everywhere like your life depended on it.
And now, sitting in that box, it is literally just plastic garbage.
Right. Its utility has dropped to absolute zero.
Because the environment around those objects shifted. The ecosystem that made them valuable just, well, it no longer exists.
Making them the physical manifestation of total obsolescence.
Exactly.
Now, I want you to imagine taking that exact same feeling, that cold realization of absolute obsolescence, and applying it to the most foundational aspects of human existence.
Which is a wild leap, honestly.
It really is. We're talking about not just our electronics, but our careers, our historical heroes, the nations we live in, and even our deepest personal ambitions.
What if they are all destined for that exact same box in the closet?
It is an incredibly jarring perspective, which brings us to the core of today's deep dive. Welcome, by the way. It's great to have you here in the room with us as we explore this.
It's a really fascinating topic today.
Yeah, we are exploring a translated essay from February 2023 by an author named Xu Feng. It is titled, "Do Not Lament Over Declining Industries."
And the mission of this deep dive is to completely reframe how you look at the concept of decline.
We are going to examine a philosophy that treats everything from the fall of political empires to, like, your personal 5-year plan through the exact same ruthless, unsentimental lens as an outdated flip phone.
It's all about cultivating a state of extreme detachment.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the premise is that history proves absolutely everything in the physical and political world will eventually decline and disappear, right?
Right. So feeling sorrow over the natural life cycle of these things, whether it's a piece of tech or a global superpower, is, according to the author, a fundamental misunderstanding of how reality actually operates.
And the essay grounds this massive philosophical concept in something highly relatable, starting right in that tech graveyard we were just talking about.
Yeah, he points out how the mobile phone essentially became an apex predator in the consumer market.
It didn't just compete, it absorbed entire sectors. Because of the smartphone, printed newspapers and magazines became what he explicitly terms declining industries.
And then the phone swallowed the television industry.
And then cameras, flashlights, calculators, landlines, they all became dying industries practically overnight.
And his rhetorical question here is really crucial. He asks, why cry over a calculator?
Right, like we don't hold vigils for the flashlight.
Exactly. We just accept the economic and technological reality of their decline.
But then the author makes this much more visceral by sharing a deeply personal anecdote about the sheer human cost of this kind of technological shift.
The telegram story.
Yes, the telegram story. This part of the essay is so striking because of the sheer amount of wasted human energy it describes.
It really is.
Over 20 years ago, the author was taking an advanced international trade training course at the University of International Business and Economics in Beijing.
And we should note, this isn't a casual weekend seminar.
No, not at all. This is a highly prestigious institution, and he is doing serious academic work.
Right.
And one of the primary subjects he had to master was learning how to send economic data using telegram codes.
To understand the weight of that, we have to remember what global trade looked like before the modern internet.
It was completely different.
Oh, absolutely. Moving complex economic data like shipping manifests, commodity prices, financial transfers relied on moving information quickly across borders.
And telegram codes were the standard protocol for that.
Exactly. It was a highly specialized, incredibly valuable skill. If you knew how to encode and decode this data, you were essentially the human routing system for international commerce.
Wow. And he writes about the agonizing effort it took to master this system. It required massive amounts of memorization, late nights, endless studying.
Just pouring all his intellectual energy into becoming perfectly proficient in this intricate coding language.
And then practically overnight, the fax machine arrives.
The paradigm didn't just shift. The entire playing field was completely erased.
Because the fax machine bypassed the underlying logic of the telegram entirely, didn't it?
Yeah, you no longer needed a highly trained human to translate a document into code, transmit it, and have another human decode it.
You just put a piece of paper on a glass tray and pressed a button.
That's it. And the author realizes that all of that specialized knowledge he gained at the university, all those late nights, the stress, the tuition,
He was instantly rendered useless.
completely wasted energy. He had unwittingly poured his human capital into a declining industry.
He even notes that if anyone in that course had known the fax machine was going to become ubiquitous in a year or two, no one would have bothered opening the textbook.
It is a devastating realization of wasted effort.
Yeah, it really is.
And he uses this personal story from the 90s to draw a direct, very uncomfortable parallel to the technological anxieties we are facing right now.
Because he isn't just looking backward, right, he's diagnosing the present.
Exactly. He pivots straight to artificial intelligence, specifically bringing up ChatGPT.
Oh, of course.
He looks at the current landscape and asks, with this kind of AI accelerating, who would rationally want to spend years of their life studying to become an accountant, a lawyer, a clerk, or a bank employee?
Wow, he just flatly categorizes them all as declining professions.
He does. His logic is that investing time, money, and identity into these fields today is setting yourself up for the exact same tragedy he experienced with the telegram codes.
And he also extends this to physical labor, doesn't he?
Yeah, he notes the complete disappearance of gas station attendants, and he specifically highlights a recent trip he took to a Walmart in Williams Lake.
Oh, right, where he describes doing his shopping, walking up to the front, and finding absolutely zero human cashiers.
The entire checkout process was automated.
It's basically like spending your entire life savings and all your waking hours learning to breed the world's fastest carriage horses, right as the very first Model T Ford rolls off the assembly line.
That's a perfect analogy.
The brutal part isn't just losing a job. It's the realization that the specific capability you staked your livelihood on is no longer required by the world.
Which is a terrifying prospect for anyone listening who has spent years specializing in a white-collar profession.
It really is a profound source of modern anxiety.
But the author is actually employing a very clever rhetorical strategy here.
How so?
Well, the tech examples, the calculator, the telegram, the cashier, they operate as a kind of Trojan horse. He uses them to get us nodding along.
Right, because we all agree with the basic logic of technological obsolescence.
Exactly. Automation is faster and cheaper, therefore the old way dies.
Yeah.
But once he has our agreement on that economic reality, he takes that exact same framework and applies it to something vastly heavier.
And this is where the essay makes a massive jarring leap. We transition from the obsolescence of technology to the obsolescence of human history and political identity. He takes this incredibly cold, clinical economic term, declining industry, and applies it to matters of blood, historical loyalty, and patriotism.
He focuses on Chinese history to make this point, specifically targeting eras and movements that are traditionally deeply romanticized.
Right, he points to the overthrow the king, restore the Ming movement.
Yes.
And for some context for you listening, when the Qing dynasty took power in the 17th century, there was a massive multi-generational effort by loyalists to fight back and restore the fallen Ming dynasty.
This wasn't just a brief skirmish.
No, people dedicated their entire lives to this cause. They bled for it. Whole families were wiped out for it.
And the author actually acknowledges the gravity of this. He states clearly that the people who participated were entirely serious and committed.
Right. What's fascinating here is how he evaluates their historical contribution through that cold economic lens.
He asks what the actual result of all that bloodshed was.
And his answer is tragic sacrifice. Because they were investing their lives into a political model, the Ming dynasty, that had already lost its structural viability.
It was a declining industry.
Yeah. And then he pushes this logic even further back into antiquity, looking at China's warring states period.
He talks about the people who exhausted their efforts, who racked their brains and spilled their blood for the ancient individual states of Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, and Wei.
These were distinct kingdoms with their own cultures and armies, ultimately conquered and unified by the Qin state.
And according to the author's framework, all of those individuals who died defending the borders of Shu or Zhao died with regret, their lives ending in ultimate tragedy.
Because defending the existence and continuation of a specific political state is fundamentally working for a declining industry.
Exactly.
I have to say, I'm struggling with this leap, though. Here's where it gets really interesting. But wait, is it really fair to compare bleeding,
It's a huge leap.
It feels incredibly callous. Like, does the author really justify reducing human historical sacrifice to a quote-unquote bad investment? It seems to miss the entire point of why humans form societies in the first place.
It is a brutally analytical perspective, for sure.
Yeah.
But your discomfort with it is exactly what makes the essay so provocative.
Okay, so how does he justify it?
He justifies this leap by operating on a zoomed-out, almost cosmic timescale. From his perspective, political boundaries and cultural empires are just temporary monopolies on power and organization.
They are just technologies of human governance.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And just like a telegram or a landline, an empire has a beginning, a peak of utility, and an inevitable end driven by the changing physics of the world.
So he's looking at the Ming Dynasty or the state of Chu the same way we look at Blockbuster Video.
That is exactly what he's doing. He is stripping away the mythology, the romanticism, and the heroic narratives we attach to historical martyrdom.
Wow.
He's making a moral judgment on whether the warriors of Chu were brave or righteous. He is making a structural judgment.
Meaning that fighting to maintain a temporary political boundary against the overarching entropic flow of history is a fundamentally unwinnable battle.
Gravity always wins.
Okay, if we accept his premise that ancient kingdoms and dynasties were basically just temporary bubbles that inevitably burst, if shedding blood for the state of Wei was the historical equivalent of aggressively investing in pager technology in the year 2000,
Right.
that forces us to look at the giant elephant in the room. What does this logic mean for the nations we live in right now?
The author doesn't shy away from that implication at all.
I figured he wouldn't.
He takes this historical framework of declining industries and drops it squarely under the present geopolitical landscape, challenging the foundational worldviews of anyone engaged in modern nationalism.
Because he makes a massive prediction about the future of human organization, doesn't he?
Yes, he states unequivocally that human society will inevitably become unified, a global society, completely without nations.
And if you follow the underlying logic of the essay, this unification isn't driven by some utopian moral awakening.
No, it's driven by the same structural forces that created the fax machine.
The sheer scale of global economics, planetary communication, and modern technology naturally dissolves boundaries.
Maintaining distinct national borders becomes increasingly inefficient. It's like trying to build permanent fences in the middle of the ocean.
And because of that prediction, his conclusion regarding modern patriotism is just devastating.
He specifically calls out modern global powers. He says that anyone who pledges absolute loyalty to their country and is willing to sacrifice their life for it, whether they are Americans, Russians, Germans, or Japanese, they are actively working for declining industries.
By his logic, striving to maintain these current national boundaries is simply manufacturing your own personal tragedy.
You are dedicating your brief existence to propping up a structural model that the broader forces of human development are already in the process of dismantling.
So he's essentially saying that an American or a Russian fighting for geopolitical dominance today is no different than the telegram operator trying to legally ban the fax machine.
It is a futile effort against inevitability.
That is heavy.
It is. And he doesn't just keep this framework at the macro level of geopolitics. He forces this existential expansion all the way down into our daily, mundane, personal lives.
Right, because he says that anyone who exhausts their daily efforts in the pursuit of money, power, status, or fame is vastly misallocating their precious time.
All of those things, the corner office, the massive bank account, the societal prestige, are also declining industries.
You are just creating a tragedy for yourself by investing in them.
And the rationale he provides for this personal obsolescence is profoundly existential. He reminds the reader that the fundamental nature of the physical universe is constant, dramatic change.
He uses this incredibly striking phrase to illustrate his point. He says that even whether you will see the sun tomorrow is uncertain.
Whether you will see the sun tomorrow is uncertain.
That line really anchors the whole essay for me. It strips away the illusion of permanence we build our entire lives around.
Everything you've worked for, the status, the material wealth, the political victories, could vanish in a single instant due to forces entirely outside your control.
It's terrifying, but also strangely clarifying.
What the author is doing here is quite brilliant. He's using the hypermodern vocabulary of business, technological disruption, and economic bubbles to teach a very ancient philosophical concept.
Honestly, this sounds exactly like Buddhism repackaged for the Silicon Valley era. He's just talked about impermanence, right?
That is exactly what it is. It is
Yeah.
the core tenet of many Eastern philosophies. The idea that human suffering arises primarily from our stubborn attachment to things that are, by their very physical nature, temporary.
But instead of using ancient parables about flowing rivers or wilting lotus flowers, this author is talking about AI, Walmart cashiers, and the geopolitical struggles of modern superpowers.
He is dragging the ancient wisdom of impermanence into the incredibly anxious reality of the 21st century digital economy.
It really acts as an aggressive audit of your life portfolio. Like when you look at your own anxieties through this lens, it changes things.
It really does.
If you are stressing over a promotion or terrified about the shifting global order, the author is basically asking, are you investing your soul into bubbles that are mathematically guaranteed to pop?
Framing your daily worries about money or global politics as simply stressing over declining industries does force a radical, almost clinical detachment from the things that usually keep us awake at night.
It does, but we have to admit, if the essay stopped there, it would be an incredibly bleak piece of writing.
Very bleak.
If my laptop is a declining industry, my specialized career is a declining industry, my country is a declining industry, and my savings account is just a bubble waiting to burst, it feels like there is no ground left to stand on.
Right.
Like, what is the point of doing anything if the fax machine of the universe is always just around the corner?
Fortunately, the author does not leave the reader stranded in that void of nihilism. The essay executes a very deliberate and uplifting pivot at the very end.
So what does this all mean? Because after methodically dismantling basically the entire structure of modern human ambition, he asks the one question that naturally follows.
Are there industries that are not declining?
Right. And he answers with a definitive yes.
He introduces the concept of the eternal industries.
And his categorization of what qualifies as eternal is beautiful. He says the eternal industries are those pursuits that bring you happiness, joy, freedom, and fulfillment.
Notice how he completely inverts the definition of an industry.
Yeah. Because in modern parlance, an industry is a sector that produces a tangible physical good or an external financial service.
But the author redefines the ultimate industry as something that produces an internal state of being.
He writes that the industries that lead you from this world to heaven are the only ones truly worth dedicating your life to.
That is where your human capital should actually go.
You shouldn't be investing in the coding class for the Telegram, and you shouldn't be endlessly pursuing societal status. You should be investing your energy into cultivating joy and freedom.
Because those internal states are the only things not subject to the physics of technological or political decline.
Right.
A new AI model can render your accounting degree useless, but it cannot render your internal sense of fulfillment obsolete.
That makes perfect sense.
If the external world is inherently unstable and destined for the graveyard box, then the only logical, mathematically sound investment strategy is to invest internally.
So cultivating joy isn't just a pleasant side project. It is the only rational career choice for a human being aware of their own impermanence.
Exactly.
That reframing is so powerful. When you look at your schedule today, you listening to this can actually run this audit.
Yeah. Take a hard look at your day.
Are the tasks you are agonizing over right now tied to a declining industry? Or are they actively contributing to an eternal one?
Are you building intricate political and financial fences in the ocean, or are you actually cultivating lasting happiness?
It is a fantastic, clarifying lens for decision-making.
But if we take the author's logic seriously, it does raise one final, somewhat provocative question.
Yeah.
Something that builds on his premise but extends it out into that unified future he predicts.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, the author forcefully argues that money, power, and historical states are doomed to vanish, contrasting them with the eternal industries of joy and fulfillment.
Right.
But we have to wonder, could our modern, hyper-fixated pursuit of personal, individualized happiness eventually become a declining industry too?
Wow. That is a wild thought. How would happiness become obsolete?
Think about his prediction of a unified human society.
Okay.
If humanity truly evolves into a single, borderless global entity, the very nature of human consciousness and connection might fundamentally shift.
That's true.
Right now, we view joy and fulfillment through the lens of the isolated individual self. But if the boundaries between people dissolve the way the boundaries between nations might, perhaps what brings us joy will evolve into a collective experience completely unrecognizable to our current individualistic minds.
So if absolutely everything is subject to change, Perhaps even our definition of the eternal industry is just another bubble waiting to transform into something completely new.
It suggests that the only true constant is our capacity to adapt to the next version of reality.
That is a staggering perspective. The idea that even our current understanding of joy is just a temporary stepping stone. The target of what it means to be fulfilled might keep moving entirely.
Keeps you on your toes, doesn't
It
it?
really does. Well, that concept is going to take up a lot of mental real estate for me today. But for now, I think I actually need to go tackle that box of old cables sitting in my closet.
Probably a good idea.
Because if there's one incredibly clear takeaway from this deep dive into Xu Feng's essay, it's that holding on to old wiring, whether it's made of copper and plastic or political ideology and ambition, is the definition of a declining industry.
A very wise move. It is time to let the telegrams stay in the past.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep diving deep.